Hi, everybody. I wanted to focus a little bit on this F10, which is in this case, our designing an experiment where we're going to identify the variables in the experiment or the investigation, independent, dependent, and controlled variables. And when we were together before, we called those constants, but I wanted to let people know that oftentimes they're called controlled variables as well. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to measure how much you need to push on an object, any real object, to get it to deform. And then we were worried about having it deform temporarily or permanently. So right now, if I push on this, it bounces back. But you can imagine if I were to push on it for some other material for a longer time, it wouldn't bounce back. So that's what we call a permanent deformation. And we're sort of curious about both of those. How much can I push on it so it bounces back, and how much can I push on it and have it permanently deform? So we're writing this down in that section. And then our job was to try to sort out what the independent and dependent variables were going to be in this experiment. Remember, we read this, the variable that changes, the variable we change, I often think of it that way, on purpose, or we manipulate on purpose. And then what do we measure? This is the variable we observe the effects caused by the thing we did. And so in our little experiment here, we're going to basically be applying a force to the top of this to see how much it bends or deforms. And so it's pretty simple to see that the independent variable in this is going to be the amount of force that we apply to the top of the material. And then we're going to measure how much it bends. And so our dependent variable is going to be the amount that the material is deformed. Okay? So how much does it bend? And then in terms of things we have to maintain constant, we're going to be thinking about the fact that we would get different results if we changed how much this overlaps the brick, right? If the bricks are like that, it's going to give us a different result than if they're only overhanging by a little bit. So we're going to keep that at 2 centimeters. That's going to be our constant for overlapping the brick. And then we also have to be aware that where we apply the force is also going to be important. So if I apply the force here versus there, we're going to be worried about that. So where we apply the force is an example of another constant. And then that also includes where we're going to measure the deformation happening. So we are going to be paying attention to where this thing, where it goes when it deforms, and then where it springs back. So, how much it deforms. If I were to measure it here, it's going to be different than if I measure it in the middle. So we're always going to be measuring it from the middle, and so that's our third constant. We're going to measure the deformation from the same point. And that's going to get us set up to do this experiment in a way that we're going to get reasonably good results if we're careful, because we're changing just one thing, we're measuring the result, and we're holding a number of important variables constant. Hope this helps you get this set up.